Hey, oh my
Hey,
gosh, we're doing a show. It's actually
right.
happening.
That's right.
Woo!
We're kind of settled in kind of a settled, not settled, but settled kind of way, right? You can tell by my pack because I haven't really
Yeah.
unpacked yet uh, all that much.
Yeah, well, a lot of changes in your world right now. You are no longer hailing from Southern California. You are all the way on another coast, even.
That's true. If there's a bright center to the universe, I am the state that is farthest from. I'm just kidding. That's a little Star Wars reference there.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Zocalo,
Hey, hey. Glad to
where
have
we
you with
talk
us.
about coasts and moving a lot of objects because both of us have been doing that lately. We'll talk about that, but this is a Babylon 5 live stream that we
Yes.
try to do every Sunday. Last weekend, we got deterred by what I think appears to be a more recurring weather pattern for you in Florida as opposed to Southern California because we barely get rain here. But a
I sure,
thunderstorm threatened to knock out your power.
I sure hope that that's not the case all the time. Because as you can see in my background, this is the exact same time when, or actually just a little bit before, where I called Char last week and I said, I think that like if one lightning strike will take out like all of my equipment because I didn't have a backup unit, I didn't have a surge protector, I didn't have any of that stuff set up, and I just saw like a little bit of like flickering, so it was kind of like a brownout. Brownouts are actually like the worst because they don't knock out power; they vampire power, right?
Yeah. And that was happening, right?
Yeah, it was just very kind of like flickery and dim. I'm just like,
No, no.
No.
Yeah, we were trying to just out of an abundance of caution trying to protect you and your equipment and the live stream. If you had just suddenly gone out, it's like that part in Wayne's World where the show goes wrong when the new Wayne's World debuts and Wayne has to basically split after the commercial break. And then I'd be
Oh,
Garth, I'm having a good time. Not.
this is the part where it explodes or something like that.
I love that
Yeah.
movie. All
So
right, so we're talking
here.
everything but Babylon 5, but you're getting settled. You've been doing a lot of work in your
Yes,
new
yes.
digs.
I am pretty much have my engineering degree in anything that needs cam bolt fasteners and what else did I say? Cam bolt fasteners and dowels. Because I can dowel
Okay.
something, man, like no one's business. I can put together a Taj Mahal if it came with dowels, cam bolts, and Allen wrenches.
All right.
Yeah,
Allen wrenches for the win. I was playing with
that's
some of
right.
those too. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
move, but I might as well have been. We got new carpet in our upstairs.
I love it. It's very Gray Council, like your whole motif. You know, you have
Yes, gray, black kind of chrome is very much on brand for how I
yeah.
like my house decor.
And before I do anything with my backgrounds, I just want to give people a view
Ah, the
of the buns.
buns. Look at
And
them buns.
yep, so
I
we
got to
have
see them hopping about before the show. It was super cute.
Pippin and Buff, Pippin and Buff. Yep.
Pippin and Buff. Ah, it's
So
good to see them.
it is good to see them. It's good to be with them. Yeah. Yep.
Yes. And as some folks who regularly tune in might know, this is a different layout for me. My desk is not where it once was because while we were getting said new carpet, we rearranged the bedroom. And so my desk used to be where that fan is back there in the background. I have since moved over to a window for more natural light.
I actually like the way that your whole your setup is because it feels like you're not just shoved up against like the ass end of like some kind of room, right?
Well,
It's
that's
like
kind of what was happening.
yeah.
And I mean, it served a purpose. It was okay at the time because I had the whiteboard right behind me, but it was not the most, I don't know, it wasn't the most exciting thing. I was hoping the kitties would join us in the background, but they have declined to appear. I don't know. It's their house, it's their
Yeah.
rules. But I'm hoping in the future, perhaps maybe they will in the background. Like I know Terry Lynn, who is here,
Hey,
she used to love it when my kitties would make appearances, and they love to sit on this bed. So you never know.
The cage, Terry Lynn, if you wanted to see it again, it's they're basically like these giant kind of like plastic slides, and they all kind of like they all joint together. Uh, but I don't like them as much because there's no door, and I have to
Oh.
take off one of those panels to step over the bottom panel to get to the bunnies, and it just like it kind of freaks them out a little bit. I'm like, nah, I think I'll go back to a regular exercise pen, which I had in the old
Hmm.
apartment. or the old house. I donated those to the Bunny Bunch Rescue before I left. Yeah,
that's where the bunnies came from, right?
one did. Buffy came from there. Pippin came from a kind of like a weird auction that we bought her from. Like it's very, very convoluted story, but
long story. Okay,
yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, now that we're all kind of up to speed, we've been able to catch up just a little bit. Oh my gosh, we have a long overdue show. We came up with this topic before you moved.
I know, and things just go strangely sideways sometimes.
It's yeah, it's gone by so fast. Well, and then last week, of course, we had every intention of doing the show, and then the storm made sure we had other plans. So it's finally going to happen, though. We're talking about our top 5 favorite Babylon 5 designs, and by design, this topic is very open-ended.
Oh yeah,
so it can be anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is artistic. Artistic is all about your interpretation. You know, what it means to you, how it connects with you, if it means something in the narrative that is significant. That's the interesting thing about production design. The one thing, though, that I wanted to caveat before we start talking about this is Babylon 5 is, when it debuted, when it aired, and like even in season 1, one of the things that was very jarring to a lot of science fiction fans out there was how like different in the extreme the look was to Star Trek, because Star Trek had The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine going simultaneously before Babylon 5 launched.
It's true. And Star Trek has this very clean and sleek, futuristic look to it, whereas Babylon 5 is a little more gritty. It's a little more worn in. You can tell that people live there and use and abuse the place. And that was entirely intentional. And some people will find that jarring. I actually thought at first that it was like, okay, yeah, I see what they're going for. And then I really grew to love it. I kind of love the grittier, worn in look a little more, just because I feel like, I hate to say it, that's more realistic. That's probably what the future is going to be more like than Star Trek, as much as I love Star Trek. But Star Trek is also very sanitized in that respect, in terms of its aesthetic.
Exactly. It's like Babylon 5, I think, is a little bit more of heir apparent design-wise to, say, the lived-in universe of, say, Star Wars, or even shows before that, Space 1999, or Blake 7, or even Doctor Who. Doctor Who's technology was very under budget. Maybe it's like the best way to say it, right? But everything had this used, lived, dirty kind of things. Just looked like people lived there, inhabited that space. It wasn't like, who cleans the starships?
Right?
You never see like cleaning crews.
The TARDIS. The Doctor's not doing that.
You never see a Mac and Bo anywhere, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And that is who's cleaning up the mess, is Mac and Bo. Although not all of the mess.
No, just that one machine that they don't really know what it does. But that's
but they just know they need to do it.
I think that's why the design approach to Babylon 5, say with Johnny Iacovelli, who was head of the production design department, I think that he wanted to come with a very, very divorced look from the status quo of the time. You know, Star Trek and Herman Zimmerman, much to his credit, created a very, very sleek, very icon-driven visual universe, visual vocabulary. Oh my God, it just turned into Chekhov. Vocabulary, right?
Yes. Also, major props to the Okudas too for a lot of their design aesthetic.
Right. So you had this great team. You had Herman Zimmerman. You had the Okudas. You had Doug Drexler. You know, you had I keep forgetting his name. It's Doug Netter. No, Doug Netter was Babylon 5. It was it's another Doug.
Oh, who might you be thinking of here?
Doug Drexler. Anyway, no, I'm thinking of
Matt Jeffries. No.
Well, that was way back. But anyway, you know, I had this team that was been working on Star Trek for almost an entire,
like almost 18 years.
Yeah,
from
almost
TNG
an entire 2 decades.
To Enterprise.
Yeah. So obviously you're going to have a system in place where everyone knows what the phasers look like. Everyone knows what the communicators look like. Everyone knows what a warp drive looks like. Everyone knows how the doors open and close. Rick Sternbach, thank you, Earl. Good to see you, Earl.
To the rescue. Thank you, bud.
Right. So you have that, and no one really knew this team, on Babylon 5. The doors look
Right.
funky. Why are they wearing things in their hands to talk into? Why are these questions being asked if you can accept the fact that they have little bitty badges on people's chests that they were talking into? Right?
Right.
So
Yeah. But in some ways, I think the point you're trying to get to is that it's not quite the antithesis of Star Trek, but just it's a definite, like, almost not slap in your face, but they very much want you to know this isn't Star Trek, but it is in the future. So they've got to be just futuristic enough, but also with that kind of gritty look.
Mm-hmm. And Star Trek, as far as I've seen, just to do a comparison and contrast, they didn't have a down below. They didn't have a brown sector where things were just filled with trash. And it looked like basically the trash compactor of Star Wars. There was greasy walls, there were people, derelicts strewn about the floor. There was crime, there was grime, there was everything that basically where you wanted to keep all of the poverty away from the prying eyes of ISN and that public.
Right. And in Star Trek's ideal future, those types of things don't exist en masse because we have handled that as humanity, which is a wonderful hope for the future. However, we as humans know we are very flawed, imperfect beings, and we haven't overcome homelessness yet. And chances are it's going to take a whole lot longer trying to do it.
All right. So before we jump into our lists, Shar, let's give a big, warm, long drink salute to our fans, because we haven't done this in a while.
Oh, for real though, you guys, we took this time off more than we anticipated, and you're still here with us. Thank you. We love you so much.
We really do. Val too.
Speaking of which, let's say a quick hello to those who are in the comments. To Terry Lynn and BC and Earl. Hi. We missed you.
And if anyone's out there that wants to join in. We don't bite hard.
Nah, not much. That one time, as Timoff said. Yes. Yeah. So BC says that we can't get rid of him that easily. Well, good. I am glad to hear it. Hey, we do have a new person, Chris Chisholm or Chisholm, one of the two.
Fantastic.
But thank you
Chris,
so much for tuning in. I'm glad you caught us today. Awesome.
So I kind of wanted to kick off this whole thing, Shar, with pretty much my end-all be-all favorite prop of all time.
Okay. So are you going from top to bottom? Oh, no. Okay. This is an aside.
Right.
All right.
I just kind of want to put the scale of where things are in my fandom, because the Watchang communicator, and this isn't the exact same design, but it evolved from the cage. This communicator to this day, I think, is still one of the best designed props I think ever made. And it's obviously the precursor to the cell phone, the flip phone, however you want to call it. But that being said, if that is my watermark, my high watermark of props in my prop collection, that's the Wand Company version. I want that to be kind of like the litmus test of how I'm going to rank the rest of my props from Babylon 5.
Man, you are setting the bar high.
In other
words.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Some stiff competition here. Okay, and for the record, I don't know what's on your list. You don't know what's on mine. How we've kept this held in for a couple of weeks now, I don't know.
Sheer exhaustion and madness.
Sheer, seriously, total and complete madness. And I want to know what's on the list of all of you who are tuning in, because, again, this is a big topic. I expect everybody's list to be a little different, and that was the whole idea.
Yeah.
So this was sort of a free-for-all.
Yeah. And if we don't get to everything on everyone's list, we can always bring it to the Discord.
That's
talk about it there. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So, Norm, why don't you kick us off, and I'll get the Discord link for those who are interested in joining us later on. I'm going to take care of that right now.
Okay. So, top 5 props or designs or costumes or ships. Oh, my. Of Babylon 5. So, I'm going to go with, so first of all, before we get to the lists, because I love keeping people in suspense. Before we get to the lists, is there something that you saw in Babylon 5 for the very first time that made you say, okay, this show really thought out its world building when it came to a particular design? Doesn't necessarily have to be a prop that you like. It's just that it really makes sense in this universe.
Oh, yes. Yes, and it is on my list.
Okay. So I guess
Now,
we won't.
are you asking me to give it away?
No, no,
Or
no, 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 no. We'll get to that. It's just that it's one of those kind of things where, say when I watch Highlander, one of the reasons why I'm a huge sword fanatic is because of that show. And when I see, say, something like Duncan MacLeod's katana, it has a very specific ivory handled hilt. And it looks similar to what they used in the movies, but it was different enough for me to sit up and take notice and say, oh, there's something, there is its own identity that they're trying to carve, pardon the pun, into the show. Into this show that's slightly different from its original source material. So when I'm looking at, say, Babylon 5, what I really love seeing is money. I love seeing how money is used in the future. I love seeing what kind of things that are being used. Sometimes I love it when, say, science fiction shows, they use kind of like this medieval type of like leather pouch with like, Centauri ducats in it, like the ones that they found in Garibaldi's quarters I believe it is Survivors.
there you go. You
right?
got it.
But it's an old school leather pouch full of coins, right?
Yeah,
and it's like,
very
why?
old school.
Yeah, why this? And like, why in the future? And earlier on, when Londo was begging for money, he's like, yeah, I don't have any more credits on my credit shit. No, how am I supposed to buy stuff, or how am I supposed to gamble? So I love seeing how they use money as a form of currency, and in this case, as a form of bribery, right? So that's something that really sets the
Same
tone with me
difference.
in world building. Yeah.
Yeah. No, now that you mentioned that, back in the 90s, before everybody was using their credit or debit cards to pay for everything, I figured that would be the future. We wouldn't be using paper money and coins anymore. We would just here's my credit chip, and here there we go. It's done.
Right.
That's how I pay for things all the time now. That's how most of us do it.
That's true, but some people still they're under the table, and I got to pay taxes on hard currency, right? So, and it's also interesting in Babylon 5 because they say that this is it holds 250,000 humans and aliens, and they're negotiating, they're doing business, and not all governments deal with the same kind of credit or currency. So you want to see like how that's being exchanged and why. Some people use jewels, some people use information, some people use credit, some people use hard currency. So I always thought that once you get that streamlined and in the world building and actively used in the show, I always thought that money is kind of like the through line that keeps things being more realistic than other things.
The necessary evil by which we make our transactions. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's just something that I always look for in a new show.
That's cool. Now, is this on your list, or is this just a side note of world building?
Side note of world building. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, side note of world building.
Well, with that as the prelude, I want to know now, like, did you rank your list from top to bottom, bottom to top, or is it just no particular order?
I have one at the very top that will never be beat. And everything else just kind of, it depends on how I feel at the time. But there's one on the top of my list that will never be beat.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say, I don't know. I love all of my choices, because they made my list. And I've got a whole bunch of honorable mentions. And as I agonized over this list for a good couple of weeks, the choices and their rankings have been all over the frickin' place. So again, one, this is subjective. But two, there's probably 2 items on my list, and they take up the top 2 spots that are pretty set in their place. The rest, ask me tomorrow and it might be different.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it then, right?
Let's do it. I'm excited. Okay. Let's go.
So number 5 on my list, if there's a number 5, and again, this just goes into the mundaneness of world building, but they're there. They always use them. They're unique to this show. You can't get past them without noticing them. The doors on Babylon 5.
Oh, such a good choice.
All right. I love the door design.
You told me about this one offline, or at least off camera, and I had it on my list and I amended it because I knew you were going to get it in here. And so if we're discussing it, that's fine. And that made room for other choices. And I'm so glad you put it on here because I love the sound and the way it swoops up and in.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
also love the fact that it's not just a clean looking solid shape. It has key notches like tumblers and a lock, like a key that
Yeah.
you would have, like a modern day key. And I love that. I just felt that that's signature. That's a signature design for this show. It doesn't
Very
swoosh the
much.
way that Star Trek does. And I'm pretty sure that, the production design department, like, okay, we need doors in our futuristic space station, but they can't be Star Trek doors. So what are we going to do?
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall and heard that conversation. How did they come up with what they did?
They look like keys. I'm sure maybe one of the designers, maybe it was Iacovelli himself, who just looked at it and like, what if we just did this as a door and just kind of like swung like a pendulum?
Yeah.
Right. So I thought that was just kind of neat. I thought that just made a lot of sense to me.
It's very cool. It is different, and yet it still serves its purpose as a door.
Yes. Yes. So that was
And sound effects are everything. Much like the whoosh of the doors in Star Trek, I love the sound effect of the doors opening and closing on Babylon 5.
Earl says, how did Kosh get through those doors? Turn sideways and squat, just kind of shuffle through? He just kind of...
Something like that.
Yeah. All of the above. Something like that.
Yeah, he had to kind of angle himself in a certain way that only he knew after much practice.
Most of the time, Kosh kind of appeared from like behind a wall or in a hallway, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like, he doesn't do it very often. Like, whenever he can get away with not doing it, he really condenses his trips out so that he only has to do this once in a great while, because it is kind of embarrassing, I'm sure, having to see him tiptoe his way and angling just so far here, and then you go back the other way, and yeah, it's just this whole thing. It's
well, him coming through like a mundane door like that, like it loses all of the dramatic effect for like very dramatic entrance, right?
It really makes you see him in a different light, where he's usually this grandiose otherworldly creature, but no, he can barely get through a doorway.
Yeah, he got stuck. It's like, can somebody help me?
Kosh. Man. Yeah. And you can't reach out to Kosh and say, do you need help? No. Never ask that question.
So what's on the bottom of your top?
Well, yeah, okay. As I look at my list, I realize I don't want this order, but here we go anyway. We're doing this.
Hey, change the order however you want. It's your show.
But yeah, here's the thing: is I would change it tomorrow. It might be this same list of items in a different configuration. It might be something else entirely. It doesn't matter. There's so many good things to put into this list. But my number 5 in this particular version of the document I have saved is the PPG.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm a practical person. I like simple, no nonsense stuff. And the PPG really just is the epitome of that sort of thing. It's small, it's easy to operate without compromising on its effectiveness. And that's exactly why you want it. In the event of a split-second decision, you have to use it. You don't have time to be mussing around with control panels and stuff like that. No, you just have to lock and load and go.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll palm a power cap, or just in case you give it to somebody and dare them to shoot.
Right.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though I'm not much of a gun person or a weapons aficionado in any way, if I had to use one, if I could get my hands on a PPG, that would be my weapon of choice.
Well, what I like about the PPGs in the physics of the station is that even certain villains aren't villainous enough to do like the one thing that will like kill everyone if they're stupid about it, right? So, and what I mean is using like hard projectiles, which is like in Gray 17 is missing when Garibaldi like created basically a futuristic zip gun. Not sure that was the best way of doing things, because a lead projectile would punch a hole through the station and everyone would get sucked out into space unless that breach got closed really quickly. So, a phased plasma gun, PPG, fires a hot ball of plasma from the energy cap, and it just sears it hits you and it sears you at a very, very high temperature, causing that kind of internal damage. So that's something that was it was smart. Like, okay, if it hits steel, it'll just sizzle, right? Or if it hits electronics, it'll probably just sizzle or fry the electronics. But it won't punch through anything. It won't breach any steel. It won't breach any of the structures or bulkheads or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, very practical for where you're using it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, there was a lot of thought that went into the design, the use, and how it's going to work.
I like them. I mean, I think there have been many kits made of those garage kits, 3D printed kits. But yeah,
Yes.
I would love to put together an actual like hero size mint condition, blah 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 version of a PPG. I think they're freaking
PPG.
awesome. Yeah,
Yes, they're pretty cool. Well, should we get into some comments before we
yep.
hit number 4?
Let's do
Earl
it.
has an explanation for how Kosh got around. I love this explanation. He kind of just turned sideways and then squatted and then shuffled through. And I can imagine it like the Kosh maneuver. I can envision him
Oh,
doing it.
so good, Kosh maneuver, right? Yeah.
Kosh maneuver. Yes. Here's another theory: is there's Kosh-sized Jeffrey tubes throughout the whole station that are just for him. I don't know if that's a good use of space, but it is good for the dramatic effect. I do agree with that, Earl.
Well, it's like when there's an episode in Deep Space Nine when Quark and Rom were like going through Jeffrey's tubes, and all of a sudden they just pop into like Cisco's quarters or his ready room. Right? Kosh is like, "Whoops, wrong door."
I was never here.
That's right. You are the hand. What does that mean?
DC Stevens says we got some door comments. It seems to be designed with very practical purpose to auto shut when power is lost, safely keeping in the air. Again, good thinking.
Right?
Kind of important when you're out in space.
Exactly. And I also like it when they try and when they override the lock, it only opens up so far.
Yeah.
Right? It kind of opens like halfway, right? So you can just creep in there. So I always thought that was very cool. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, that way, like if you've got some psychopath on the loose or something, Garibaldi's trying to secure an area, you don't have that person just running out the moment the doors open. No.
Exactly.
They've got an obstacle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Such good thinking.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Terry Lynn says that she thought the entrance to the alien sector was realistic, especially with the mass compartments. Yeah, because not every form of life that we're going to encounter in the universe someday is going to breathe oxygen the same way we do. They're probably going to breathe a combination of other things. I mean, it makes sense that life is probably all over the universe. We just don't recognize it in the same way we do. You know, it's not like us.
I always liked it from the very beginning, from the gathering, the oxygen masks going into the alien sector. I always thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
They almost made my list. It was like this close.
It's something that Star Trek never really touches on enough, I don't think, is everybody is expected to be kind of like an oxygen-breathing, carbon-based humanoid life form, which I think is going to be very much not the case as we start exploring more life outside of Earth.
Well, that's why I think that Babylon 5, again, it's kind of like sets itself apart because it does take a lot of these science fiction elements to a more realistic part of the equation, right? They know that this is a space station. It's where people are supposed to travel to do business, to discuss politics, to represent their governments. And they are going to be from different species with different, different life support systems and required.
100%.
Yeah. All righty. So we're up to
number 4.
Number 4. So this is a selfish pick for me, like, because it doesn't really do anything aside from one particular part of the narrative. But I think there are only 2 of them ever been made. And one of them was up on eBay for a very hefty sum, which I almost bought.
Okay, what is it?
It's Sinclair's medal from the Battle of the Line.
Oh,
yeah.
I've seen a photo of this. You might have been the one who shared it with me. These things are cool.
And it only popped up once. I think actually J. Michael Straczynski said that this is one of 2. He has the other one. And this is and I think they made one for him specifically. Man. And this was the one that Michael O'Hare used as the prop, as the stunt prop for that scene.
Wow. So some lucky bastard out there has it.
Yeah, it went for quite a hefty sum. Yes.
I'm sure it did. Oh my gosh. Now that is a true collectible.
Yeah. Yep. And I just, wow, it's just so gorgeous. And it's just one of those things where it's a one of a kind thing. And if you want to put it in your headcanon, like, yeah, there's the medal from the Battle of the Line. And it's significant to Sinclair's history. If you're a Sinclair fan, it's a great collectible, but also it's just one of those tangible props that turns into something really significant in the world building.
Sure. Just because of what it means, its place. It's a part of that B5 history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, really good pick. I didn't think about anything like that. Nice work.
Thank you.
My number
All right.
4 isn't quite as exquisite as that. But you know what? I like it anyway. It's Jakar's jacket.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, his entire getup is amazing. Okay. And I could say this for really any of the main characters' ensembles because it represents who they are as people, as a culture, all sorts of great stuff. But this one, like Jakar's jacket, it stands out, especially to me as a work of art. It's made up, it's like this patchwork, you know, of different colors and pieces of material held together by these metal bolts. It's so incredibly hard. It's so incredibly distinctive to Jakar. It just lives and breathes him. It's his essence projected into the world. Nobody else could wear that piece of clothing and make it look the same. And it just, something about it just really, I've always loved it.
Well, there's almost kind of like a savage yet regal quality to it.
Just like Jakar.
Exactly. So that it very much informs you of it. Like I said, it's very practical. It's probably is something that is a little bit more on the formal side for Narn. But at the same time, though, it's not, say, as formal or as filigreed as Londo's very kind of, exuberant and very regal looking waistcoat.
100%. Yeah, it's not nearly as, I would say, like put together as a Londo suit. And it doesn't have it doesn't have quite as many layers. I mean, there are layers to Jakar's costume, don't get me wrong. But what I love the most about it, I think, is the fact that it is kind of almost like this ragtag collection of things put together and all together and on him becomes more than the sum of his parts. It's much like the character himself.
Exactly. Man, such a great call. Wonderfully explained. Wonderfully explained. Because it's so true. And I think it's more, I think it's like more evident on Andreas, because I think that when actors put on their costume, it does transform them in a way. They really inhabit that. Yeah.
Yeah, and for Andreas especially, once he had that makeup on, like he embodied Jakar. He really was him in that moment. I almost knocked out my Brevari. Ooh, scary moment.
Terry Lynn asks, what of the Minbari warship that Susan gave Sheridan, or a piece of the warship, is it a one-off too? I'm thinking that's probably from the Dralafi, right? From the Black Star.
Was it? It must have been, because that was the ship he destroyed. That's why correct. He's Star Killer.
That's what I'm thinking, but we have experts out there.
Could be wrong. Somebody out there can correct us. B5 History Man, maybe, if he's tuning in. He knows everything.
Everything.
That man is a wealth of knowledge. Dude's been around. He is one of the quote-unquote first ones.
True enough. Yeah.
Yes. But we are getting confirmation in the comments. Yes.
Yeah, it just makes sense. It makes sense that it would be from the Black Star. All right. So moving right along to number three-ish. Okay.
Number 3.
So, Shar, you've heard me say this billions of times, and it's because I love thinking about things that are marketable, and because I want to buy them, because I want these things to be made. And I think it's also one of those things that's very ubiquitous in Babylon 5. They use them all the time. We ourselves have, in this day and age of our technology, have a very similar type of technology that's used all the time, and that is the data crystals.
I knew this was going to be on your list. Yes. Seriously, in my head, I was sketching out I was trying to predict your answers so that I wouldn't put them on my list.
I love, and
I knew data crystals would be on here. Yes, we've talked about this so many times over the years.
I just love the fact that they were, like I said, like in Star Trek, they had like isolinear chips or isolinear data rods, things of that nature. They also had computer disks. They used them many times. But again, for Babylon 5, in order to do what they do, synonymously with Star Trek technology, they had to create something their own for their own world building. And I really like the data crystal because they use basically the crystalline technology in order to store massive amounts of data, much like like who's your little Pac-Mara, things of that nature. Right?
Yes, exactly.
But I
what
also
a callback you just made there.
Right? They're really, really nice. They're different shapes. They're not always the same shape. So you know that it's organic technology. All the races use them.
Different sizes too.
It's
Like,
possible. Yeah,
the
it's
more
possible.
elongated, the more, I don't know, gigaquads of data it holds.
It could be, and I think that's obviously that holds true for the logic of this technology. But what I love about him is that it's very signature to Babylon 5, and it's not just related to any one specific government or race. All of them use this technology. So if they wanted to, like, say, show what happened on Mars, with when they were exhuming the shadow ship, it was on a data crystal, right? Or data crystals were getting smuggled in a way so that they could pass information through the ranger system. So I always thought that it was kind of neat. It was like when one of the rangers appeared towards Garibaldi and gave him a data crystal. It's what that had Sinclair on it. Hello, old friend.
Yes. Hello, old friend. Yes. Yeah. And I love your idea for a modern day version of this. And I'm so surprised nobody's done it, is a USB data crystal. Because that would look like, if like you have USB keychains.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a crystal would look pretty cool on a keychain, and then you just pop out the port and then use it when you need to. I would buy it for sure.
I'm just saying that I told Captain Jacqueline this. She runs B5 Books. I said, you really should have done a special collector's edition of the encyclopedia and the B520, put it all on a USB drive that had the topping of a data crystal. You would have sold bajillions of Centauri ducats.
Dude, she would have been so freaking rich.
I'm just saying.
Marketing really is your thing, dude. You belong there. You have good ideas.
I just know what I want to buy. I don't know how to make them, but I have the ideas for them.
Well, it's like Q, right? I'm an idea man.
Yeah,
doing the work is not my forte. But if you have the idea, logistically, somebody out there knows how to make it happen. So we just have to connect you to that person and make amazing things happen in the world.
That would be nice. Let's do that.
Yeah. Okay. Right. People, if you're out there, if you know how to make USB data crystals, talk to Norm.
All right. So we're on number 3 for you.
My number 3. Okay. This is a costume again. And this one belongs to Delenn. It is her green outfit. If I were to do a B5 cosplay, it'd be one of two things. It would either be the Army of Light uniform, or it would be this. And this is my favorite of the Delenn costumes because she wears it when she means business.
Business.
And business. I mean, she wears it. I think the first time I really noticed it, and maybe she wore it earlier. It's possible. Correct me on this, but I really noticed it in Messages on Earth, or Messages from Earth, when she and Sheridan go out in the White Star to see what's going on with. Anyway.
Dr. Kirkus?
Yeah, if she wore it before then, let me know. But that's when I really noticed it. It's like it's kind of like this sleek thing. There's not a whole lot of elaborate decoration to it. Whereas her other costumes, it's sort of like she's got the tunic and then she's got, the piece that goes over that. She continues to wear it throughout the Shadow War and then the Earth Civil War, and then just kind of hangs out in her closet for a lot of season 5, where she kind of goes back to the older style. And so that's kind of what I mean when she's wearing it when she means business, because she just needs something practical that's not going to get in her way. But she does put it on again when she and Lanier go out. They're kind of like, she's going out to Minbar to ask if they will start building Minbari warships or White Star warships, excuse me, and they almost die in hyperspace. She's wearing it again then. But at the same time, even though it's practical, it's beautiful. And I love the way like one side kind of flows across her body and then just over the hip. Like it's so flattering and sexy, and at the same time, really practical. It just really fits Delenn too. Like that's her in a nutshell. You know what I mean?
That was her Severed Dreams close-up outfit, wasn't it?
She wore it then too. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Terry Lynn, I have no idea if Mira had any say on her costume design. I don't know if any of them did or not.
And I don't know if I said it on Twitter before, but I will keep my patent rights, of course.
Yeah, 100%. If you can get that filed, make that happen.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so that's my number 3.
I love that you're picking like the costume choices. I really do. I've struggled with them, but I wanted to go a little deep dive, in my choices. So we can jump into number 2s.
Twos. Insert your Bone Beavis and Butthead joke here.
So number 2 And I've seen them try and make this happen online, but it's not very good. But it kind of gets the idea across. And that's the Minbari fighting pike.
Okay. I knew this would show up at some point. It's in my honorable mentions. It was one of the first things I thought of. And then I realized the practicality of a Minbari fighting pike over a PPG isn't nearly as simple.
Right.
It looks simple, but you really have to know how to use a Minbari fighting pike.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it. When we first saw it, it was, first of all, it was like, okay, that's new. Right. So as a science fiction fan, and especially with a science fiction fan that loves science fiction weaponry, the lightsaber was a game changer in science fiction history. And I love bladed weapons, lightsaber, an energy bladed weapon, or Thundar's sun sword, or, you know, Highlander, the katanas, any kind of sword I'm pretty much like drawn to, even if the whatever I'm watching isn't that great. But when I saw this, a collapsible or an extending bow staff in martial arts, because the staff is one of the oldest forms of self-defense weapons. You know, the Europeans, specifically the English, because they had, you know, they had very strong oak wood that they turned into giant staffs, and like Little John in Robin Hood, you know, they were very good at it. And they were, you have to be very, very, very good at using something like that at close and long range. But the scene where Marcus and Neroon go at each other with that and give a little bit of history of, you know, who learned the fighting style from Darhan himself. Well, Marcus did. When Neroon looked at it and he said, this is very old, like Darhan himself gave him the fighting pike, right?
Yeah.
That's just, every time like Marcus, you know, he used it significantly, except for when he was, well, maybe he was using it significantly when he was pissing off Dr. Franklin.
That was very significant.
Yeah. And
he knew what he was doing. But that's just how much,
you know. I'm just saying, think about how much power goes behind one of those, because Sheridan shattered an emergency door with one of those extending out.
Yeah, you don't F with the Minbari fighting pike. That is for sure. It might look innocent, but boy, you can cause a lot of damage with that baby. And what I love is when Marcus makes it look easy. Like, he's just so nimble with that thing. And we know, though, that it's not. It requires a lot of training, requires a lot of skill. You know, you got to have hours and hours, and you can get scars from it.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, be careful. If I had a prop, though, like a B5 prop, I'd probably want a Minbari fighting pike, though. Because it just looks so cool. And I love how you can open it up and then collapse it. That's just cool.
There's a version of something like that. It looks more like a magic wand or like a cane, but it's a compressed spring-loaded cylinder that has a telescoping end on both sides. Now, it's nice in theory. If they made it a little bit thicker, you know, with a little bit more aging on it, they could probably do something like that. But I love antique props in a futuristic science fiction setting. I always did, or always have.
And aren't Minbari fighting pikes very old? Like, it's a long-held Minbari.
I mean, I do believe some of them can be, but I also think that, you know, it's perhaps that, you know, they may have been like heirlooms or bequeathed to ranger in case, like maybe. In Marcus's case, it came, obviously his was an heirloom. And the funny thing is that like Neroon kind of notices that a little bit, especially the way that Marcus fought. So yeah, you know, it's like a, you know, it's like when Garibaldi got his his great aunt's gun, like her revolver, her slug thrower.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that pistol or what have you.
Yeah, it was something that was you know, something from the past. You know, something that's deadly, obviously, in its use, but also like beautiful in its, you know, in its aesthetic.
And handed down, and energy efficient, according to DC Stevens, which I think is a great point to make. Lot more efficient than a lightsaber, probably.
Yeah, I mean, scars from practicing with a fighting pike, this is DC again, would seem to be a bit less serious than scars from having an oopsie with a lightsaber. Yeah, true.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you get that scar.
Joanna, how do you pronounce your last name? Is that Schlupek? I think. And the pike also doubles as medical equipment. True.
See, and it's versatile. So what's
Right?
not to love here?
Yeah. So,
Good stuff. Okay,
all right.
love it.
So you're number 2.
Number 2. Okay. This is my deep cut pick that I had to go for. It is the 5-shaped bar table found in seasons 1 and 2. And there was a recent post on Reddit about this. It was last seen in the episode Acts of Sacrifice. And it's one of those cool things that you're probably not going to notice until you've watched the show probably a few times. And then once you do, though, you're looking for it. You can't unsee it. You're looking to see it every instance that you can get. And in all honesty, like the 5 shape is very practical for a bar design, for the bartender to work.
Oh, yeah.
So to give you context, I'll give you a link because I bookmarked it and you can see what I mean. Because if it's been a little while or if you have not seen or noticed it in action, you got to get there.
Get there.
Get there. All right. So I'll put that in the chat.
I don't even think I remember this one.
It is really freaking cool looking. So check that out, you guys. I love this table. And I wish it had made more of an appearance or more appearances, period, in quantity. But it's one of those things that's just so uniquely Babylon 5. Where else would it exist?
Right.
But it's there. So
okay,
that's my number 2 pick.
I think that's awesome. And it is deep cut. And I love finding deep cut stuff because it's just, like I said, it's there, right? It's there.
Yeah.
You may not notice it, but it's still there. It's still part of the world building. I want to, since we have a little bit more time, which I think is great, I would like to do maybe like 1 or 2 honorable mentions before I do our number 1s.
Okay, before the number 1s?
Before,
yeah. Look at you. Okay.
I know.
Okay.
Salze. Right?
I'm going to keep the suspense. I like it. All right. Well, jump in, bud.
Well, for all intents and purposes, I love pretty much like all of the smaller accoutrement from, like the comm badges, or I should say the biometric links, comm links, to things like the fighting pike, to the smaller things. I've mentioned a lot of small things, but one of the things, and I don't know if you saw this, but I'm wearing my t-shirt.
Hey, look at that.
See that?
Nice. Yeah.
So I haven't mentioned any like big tech. I love the Black Omega Star Furies from Psycor.
Nice.
Love them. They're
love
just
them. Okay,
so.
Why do you love them?
Because first of all, they're elite, and I'm an elitist jerk, so I love stuff like that. They're only,
fair enough.
They're only used by basically psychops like Bester and Byron when Byron was a psychop.
So got to be high level P10 or more.
And they're kind of like a callback or a throwback to like stealth technology, like our modern stealth technology, which is radar absorbing material. So that's why they're black, because they have material that essentially keeps them undetectable. Mm-hmm. So they can move
which
through
you
systems.
Want.
Right. So because telepaths can't jam out some type of homing signal or some type of radar that's trying to look for them, but the ship can. They actually, I think it is in Mr. Garibaldi's security manual, they talk about the ship and they're saying that it's the most advanced classified Earth Alliance technology in a starfighter, in a Star Fury.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
okay.
That's one of my honorable mentions. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Here's one of my honorable mentions. It is the look of an open jump gate. Now, okay, I don't know if this is fair or not. Like, it's not exactly a design, but it is.
The jump gates,
because someone had to make it. Yeah, and especially in the later years when the CGI can really show off just how intricate hyperspace is. Just damn, that's cool.
And I love it when the jump gates expand, like wider.
Yeah, and they widen. There's that. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was worth it just to hear.
Right. So I've always loved that. I think that's super freaking cool.
I love that.
How about another honorable mention?
I have one more.
Okay. Do it.
And it's from one of my all-time favorite episodes. And it's not on the list of favorite episodes, but it's one of mine. And it's from the episode Knives, where Londo and where Londo and he basically has to duel his best friend, in the Coro Preto. So they have these fencing jackets. They're quilted. They're leather. They're silver. They have, it's kind of like a single overflapping breast design. They have the entire fencing accoutrement. They have the kutari, which is their ceremonial swords. They even have a box, like a box, like an ancient wooden box that they pick their swords from. And
yes.
So Londo and Urza Jado, or Sculptura and Pasiliati, I just love the whole ritual behind Centauri honorable fencing duel things.
Nice. I can entirely see why you picked this, because you yourself as a fencer can appreciate all the intricate details that are put into just one scene like this. I mean, we give the Minbari a lot of crap for having a lot of rituals, but if you think about it, the Centauri, they're right up there, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, I want to borrow a line from Star Wars, but the Kutari were like an elegant weapon from a more civilized age of the Centauri Republic. Also, really, really good at killing bugs.
Indeed. Their primary purpose, in fact, on Babylon 5, pest control.
Yeah, before they develop language skills.
That's right. You've got to eradicate them before that happens. Otherwise, then it's all over.
That's right.
Yes. We've got to give an honorable mention via BC for the Zemus sign.
Do we really?
Oh, we do. We do. I'm sorry. That's one of my favorite details in all of Babylon 5 lore and history, is the fact that frickin' Zima, of all things, made it onto a science fiction TV show. That and Daffy Duck. Who would have thought?
Such product placement. No, obvious.
And the Kawasaki ZX Ninja 2000 or whatever the heck it was.
Oh, the motorcycle. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. A 1992, if I recall.
Probably.
State of the art at the time.
Yeah, that was the bike with the wind flowing through your hair, but not. That's funny because Garibaldi and Lanier have no hair for the wind to blow through. So,
well, Garibaldi had a little. It was season 1, but Lanier,
that's true.
no.
That's true. No, Lanier, no. Yeah, you're right.
just his bone.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess I got to throw another honorable mention here, huh? Oh, which one do I want to pick from? I mean, if we're going for, I'm going to lightning round this. I'm going to cheat. I don't care. Okay,
do it.
If we're going to stick with Centauri, the male Centauri peacock hairdo shows off just how grandiose they are. It's very flamboyant and in your face, and you know a Centauri male when you see one.
True.
Next, the Great Machine. I mean, that thing is so vast and intricate. We didn't really get to see the full breadth and depth, but even when they try to show off the scale, it does make you feel like you need to go to the bathroom.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's see. Two more. The exterior design of Babylon 4. I really like how the panels bloom out of one side of the station, whereas Babylon 5 just has more of a straightforward grid. Yeah. I really like the look of Babylon 4. And Babylon 4 is a little bit bigger. It's 6 miles long, not 5. Oh. Little side note. And it can move. Did you know that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I either forgot or did not know that little detail when I was looking up Babylon 4, because I was trying to figure out like a certain detail of the station one day and realized, oh, it can move. Oh, son of a bitch, that's cool. Babylon 5, I don't think can do that. So they gave B4 more features, in my opinion. Kind of cool.
Very cool.
And my last one, got to mention it, white stars.
Well, yeah.
Some people think they look like plucked chickens. I think they're pretty cool.
I think they're pretty cool too.
Yeah,
I love the look of them.
White stars are the bomb. I would love to ride around in a white star someday.
I mean, I just love like that whole aesthetic. It's very alien looking, and I like that Babylon 5 took those chances where, again, like not everything has a certain specific Star Trek designed look. All the ships I felt like are so the Minbari Charlene class cruisers, the White Stars, even like the Drazi Firehawks or the Sunhawks. Those are really, really, really cool looking because they just kind of like went for it. They're like, well, the sky's the limit, really, or space is the limit when it comes to design, because Star Trek already owns like one part of the corner of the universe, and Why not make the other one? But the Star Furies, though, are really super smart because I like how they have reverse thrusters in the front so they can use inertia to spin them around. Harlan Ellison played a huge part in saying, this is how physics works. You know that, right? So
yeah, we're going to have to talk about Star Furies a little bit later. Wink, wink.
yeah. Wank, wank. All right.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So, all right.
Number
Are we
ones?
ready for number one?
You want to guess mine? I think you can guess mine. You want to guess mine?
I think you can guess mine too at this point because I just gave it away.
Well, you want to go first?
That's fine.
Okay.
We're here.
So, that's right. So go ahead.
Well, I don't know if I can guess yours.
Of course
you already did data crystals. You already did Minbari fighting pikes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Star Furies?
Nope.
Okay. Tell me.
It's the Ranger pin.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yes.
I should have guessed that.
The brooch of the unlost shock, I think, is probably one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, like in science fiction. Mainly because I love the design. I really do. It's very organic. I love the fact that it has its own story behind it. The way that Marcus described it, it was, cooled in 3 pools, one of Minbari blood, one of holy water and one of human blood. When a ranger dies, it's supposed to shed 3 tears. And it has this stone in the middle of it called the Isil stone, or where the Isil Za comes from, or the future. So that's that's that very special stone. So I just love that everything about that. It's very symbolic. It's I love it that it's how Marcus used it to like identify himself. So he didn't call attention to himself. He just gave the pin to I think it was to Lanier, and
right.
And he put it back on. And he says, may I have that back, please? And it was just, it's very, very unique to Babylon 5. And I've never seen anything like that ever since.
I agree. And it's a very cool emblem. And you gave me a replica that the B5 fan club made. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty.
It is
very pretty. Yeah.
Like you could actually wear that on a suit today, like some type of like decorative jeweled pin, and no one would really know the difference. But if I saw that walking down the street, I'd lose my collective flarn if I saw that.
Right? You see somebody wearing that and instantly you have a friend you need to talk to right now.
Right? I was like, where did you get that? Oh, and actually, is that the one from the B5? Because the SL stone is different.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. Oh, this needed to make the list. I'm so glad you remembered it. Okay.
That's my number one. Always has been.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Nice. My number one is no surprise at this point. It is the Star Fury. Because speaking of practical things, this is like the most practical thing I can think of maybe in Babylon 5, but in a lot of science fiction. It just makes sense. I mean, they're little. It's only got a capacity for 1 person, but that makes them fast and maneuverable. They are powerful little fighters. The way they move is it just makes sense. They put the thought into how it would actually work, and it actually uses physics. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. And the way you see it operating, they're just cool.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can't get on a White Star, let me pilot a Star Fury, because that would just be bitchin'. Like in Lost Tales, where there's that scene, Sheridan and Cartage's son. I'm forgetting his name right now. I'm blanking, but he's piloting. And he's like, oh, this is even cooler than that. Yeah. Yes, him. Thank you. Yeah, that I would like a little piloting lesson in that vein. Maybe from Ivanova, though, just because.
She was a hell of a pilot. She loved going out there. Then I can
get some sarcasm along with my lessons.
I like that you picked this. I think that Star Furies are very signature to again, the world building of Babylon 5. The way they dropped out of the Cobra bays, the way that you were standing in the pilot's cockpit.
That's right. You're not sitting, and I think in action mode, standing is better. Although, I mean, you are in space, but nevertheless, also, it's one of those things where this is something I could actually see people possibly building in the future as a spacefaring vehicle, how it would operate, how it would work. If you just need to transport 1 little person, this is probably as minimal of a use of resources as you can have that gets the job done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Great design. Always love the Star Furies, and they are a little bit of kind of like a nod to the X-wing fighters. In Star Wars, they have that X design. So
Sure.
when you see them kind of like barreling at you, towards POV screen, your screen, it does have that really interesting X design. They have a lot of when the resolution's quite right. They have a lot of just really nice panel work, kind of like what they call like the Aztec work that they have, say, on like Federation starships. Just that really nice paneling. You see a lot of interesting enough because they're in space, but you see a lot of like carbon streaking, on the airfoils, space foils on those ships. So they're just gorgeous, and again, they are unique to Babylon 5. If you see that ship in like a silhouette, you're like, that's a Babylon 5 ship. Much like those shadow crabs. Yeah.
Couple other things I really enjoyed was when they deployed the Star Furies, how you have kind of like, you turn them down and then you release them. I always thought that was a cool effect. But then also, when you're in the Star Fury, you are wearing a space helmet. You are wearing a space suit in case you have to eject. That's really smart thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Great choice.
Static has a great comment as well about GPL. They were consulted about the design. That's right. I forgot about that. So practicality today, practicality tomorrow.
There's a lot of smart stuff that was going on science-wise. They had a lot of great consultants.
Well, and Joe had the foresight to actually consult with experts and say, hey, look, I've got this idea for a thing. How would it actually work? Like, he was going to people who knew more than he did to make it seem plausible.
Right.
He wasn't just going to make it up.
Right. And that's, again, reality, like realistic reality, in world building, like building that type of physical realism is something I think that we as viewers look for, not necessarily to try and poke holes through, which is what we're all really good at because we're smarter than the average, bear. But
allegedly,
when we're looking at stuff I know we all know it's science fiction. We know it's not necessarily real, but we know in our mind's eye, or at least in that little logic center in our brain, that could make sense if we had the technology.
Sure.
To do it.
I think a couple things can happen. One, we can realize when we see something that actually does make sense, makes it plausible, we recognize that, like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. That was really good thinking. Or if not enough thought has gone into it, our BS detectors go off and say, you didn't even think about this, did you? And it's so beyond your suspension of disbelief that it takes you out of it.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like science fiction, a lot of Star Trek will balance between those two extremes, but then B5 leaned more toward the actual practicality and realistic portrayal. Just because it isn't a lot of fact, whereas Star Trek's fiction eventually became fact in a lot of ways.
It's a good way of looking at it, actually. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Chicken and egg kind of thing, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. Which will come first?
Well, here we are, Shar. That was a very quick 1 hour.
Oh my goodness, that went by way too fast. Well, this is what happens when we've got to catch up and we've, not talked for a couple of weeks. The show just goes by like that. Yeah. With any luck, guys, next week we'll be back again doing another topic and doing it all over again.
And I'm looking forward to it again. Yeah, I want to do it all over. It goes, I want to do it over. I want
to do it again.
I want to do it again. So thank you, everyone. I mean, we had a great turnout. You guys are everything to us, to the show. I'm glad that you guys are still, really supportive of the community that we're building here. If you like what you've heard, and if you have friends that are just getting into Babylon 5 because of what's going on with HBO Max and the quote unquote remastering of Babylon 5, I think that's awesome. I've been reading a lot of that type of activity on Twitter. There are people that are actually tweeting out, I can't believe you did that, Londo, at the end of season 2. I'm like, oh my God, that is so amazing that people are actually getting that.
So much fun. People going through the show for the very first time. Like, you almost envy them being able to go to that moment and experiencing it without 10,000 rewatches behind you.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's great. I think it's great for our fandom. I think it's great for the future of being able to build communities like this. So that's just something I think is just truly awesome about getting this stuff streaming again.
Totally. Yeah. And for a show that's 25 plus years old, I mean, B5 is as relevant as ever. There's a reason why it is surviving as long as it has and will,
Mhm.
you know? I
No, great
mean,
storytelling lasts. Great storytelling always lasts.
it
Right.
was built to last, but also, you know what's great about B5 fans is might not be as maybe as massive of a group as Star Trek fans or Star Wars fans, but we are very loyal to this.
Mhm.
I don't even want to call it a franchise, but this entity, this world that JMS created, just because it is so good. And we're also keeping it alive. And the more people we have in that fold, the better off we are. So if you are new, hello and welcome. And if you've been around for a long time, hey, look, we're a part of a cool thing. And B5 fans have been a really cool group to be a part of all these years. I've not seen a whole lot of toxicity in the B5 fan community.
Yeah.
And if you've been a part of other fandoms, you know what I'm talking about with B5. Not nearly so much.
So again, if you like what you saw here and what Char and I are talking about, and you've really enjoyed the conversation and the community that we're building here at the Zocalo livecast, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. That everyone knows what this does for YouTube. It increases our visibility, and the algorithm
Right.
pushes us into other
All those things. Yep.
suggestions
And the
for other
bell.
people's videos, and the bell, so that you know
Yep.
that
Then you know
new
when we're
shows pop up.
live.
Exactly.
You'll get notified. So
Yep.
yeah, if it's hard to tune into a live show because you don't remember, well, that's a good way to get a reminder.
Yeah. All right. So
all right, everybody.
We're going to have a new show topic for you. We're going to put that on Twitter in the next couple days. Char and I are going to catch up a little bit more. I'm sorry. And on Discord. You already posted that link, right, Char?
I did. The link is already in the chat. So scroll up toward the near top. That's where it will be. That link lasts for 7 days. So if you're catching this 7 days past the air date, it may not work, but you can hit us up to get a new link if you so want. We are both on Twitter. My handle is the Profanity. Norm, you are Lounge Lizard, LAONG Lizard. And yeah, hit us up in the Discord if you're not already a part of it. A lot of you are, but if you're new and you're discovering our show for the first time, come join us. We keep things alive there. We post a little bit of anything and everything. Of course, we talk Babylon 5, but we have cats, we have deep space franchises. We got all the good stuff.
So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you all hopefully next week. We're going to try and be a little bit more consistent now, since everything's a little bit more settled between in our lives, and my life and in Char's life.
So.
Yeah, right. So fingers crossed. And until next time, be seeing you.
Take care, everybody.